All right, before we get into the video, we're chasing 100,000 YouTube subscribers, so help us out. Click the subscribe button. Join us on the journey.
You ready to talk some Steelers?
Yeah.
Steelers in first place in the AFC North once again. 27-22 win over the Baltimore Ravens. Steelers move to 7-6. Ravens fall to 6-7. Another wild game back and forth. Let me start with you. What are your initial thoughts on this one?
Well, the first thought is, of course, this happened. This is what we predicted coming in. For the second week in a row, we've predicted a game that, for no good reason, was going to end in a particular way. There's no X's and O's reason you're going to come up with it. There's no actual form book that's going to point you in this way. But, of course, the Carolina Panthers were going to go and beat the Rams because naturally, because they're the most schizophrenic team in the NFL. Of course, Mike Tomlin was going to go out here and right as everybody's writing him off and firing everybody and wrapping up this whole experiment, Mike Tomlin was going to go out there and beat the Baltimore Ravens. Of course, on the road, in the division, when everyone's been saying this is the game where Pittsburgh finally gets knocked back down to where they're supposed to be. But only this time, I actually had the courage of my convictions and picked it, as opposed to just predicting it was going to happen and then not picking it.
That's kind of the power of Tomlin, right? It's like when your back's against the wall, that they find a way. Now, there was some interesting...
This is why he gets to wear aviators and go out there looking cool. It's this game. Yeah.
There was other interesting storylines with this, right? Because you had Aaron Rodgers coming off of an awful, awful 3-game stretch in which he broke his wrist or whatever it was. He played through this injury, looked terrible. But right before the game, they had these reports. They had their best week of practice. Right? He's calling out his receivers during the week.
Yeah.
And this is the thing, right? Like, this is the human element to football is like when it seems like it's all bad.
Well, we said it was...
Guess what? You can correct it, right? You could practice better. You could make a few moves. You can improve. Like, it doesn't mean it's just going to, he's calling out his receivers. He's looking bad. It doesn't mean it's going to be bad forever. They fixed it.
We said it was going to be a week of come to Jesus meetings in that Pittsburgh building, right? If there was going to be any juice whatsoever left in this Mike Tomlin, Aaron Rodgers aura, and those are real things. Like, Mike Tomlin is an impressive leader. He is able to command a room. Aaron Rodgers, the reverence that the Jets showed him when he first rocked up in the building, maybe that's lost some luster since then. But the point is, these are two guys with an awful lot of credit built up in the bank, specifically within the building. Forget the fact that Steelers beat reporters are done with Mike Tomlin. In the building, those guys have got a ton of built up credit in the bank. That probably still has some resonance. And if it was going to have anything left, this was the week where it was going to make some kind of impact. And, Rodgers is out there saying everything's bad. We need to get on the same page. We need guys in the meeting room. We need guys watching tape. It had an effect. They looked different in this game.
But before the game, there was the report that they had a great week of practice. Rodgers said, great week. They signed Adam Thielen.
We added a 2018 Pro Bowler.
They got their 2018 Pro Bowler. They worked hard. DK, they're on point, whatever. And then right off the bat, first play, Aaron Rodgers hits DK in stride, 52-yard.
Bomb.
Just
over Marlon Humphrey.
And my initial, again, I'm watching all the 1 o'clock games, my initial overreaction to the games, I was like, the Steelers just look different. It just looks different immediately. And it just felt like they were going to win this game. And every time the Ravens made a bit of a comeback, and there's some reasons why this happened, and the near touchdown, we'll figure out what happened there. But to me, it just immediately felt like the Steelers were going to win this game. And Rodgers hits that deep ball, and then he hits a couple others. And all of a sudden, it's like, this is the best I've seen Aaron Rodgers throw the ball and have command of the offense in 4 years. This is the best Aaron Rodgers I've seen in years. And even simple stuff, like he was taking snaps under center, right? He couldn't do that a couple weeks ago with the busted wrist and everything. So it just felt different immediately from Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers. DK goes 7 catches for 148 and hits Calvin Austin for a 31-yarder in a key situation. And then the eventual game-winning touchdown, absolute coverage bust where, again, Rodgers has the answers to a Ravens blitz and hits Jaylen Warren wide open in the flat. And I just thought Rodgers had full command and was making those special throws. It was the best I've seen him in years.
The deep shot did make me wonder, though, why have they been on this ridiculous run of they haven't had a significantly long pass in 2 months or something. You know what I mean? It's why Why are they not doing this 5 times a game to DK Metcalf? Like, the dude is one of the biggest, strongest, fastest wide receivers in the NFL, whose special skill is vertical threat. And Rodgers clearly still has an arm to be able to deliver those passes. Why are we not just taking 5 random shots a game over the top with DK Metcalf?
I don't know. I've been saying that about the Steelers for years anyway, is when they had other deep threats, and Big Ben was at the end of his career. It's like, you don't have to dink and dunk it. Like, just take a few shots. Take a few shots. The Steelers are weird, man. You just don't know.
The Steelers are weird.
Right? Like, it's like Tomlin. I didn't see his press conference this week. He probably had that smirk. Like, he just knew he was going to win this week. You want me to fired? I'm going to win this week. It's the Ravens. Like, they have one game a year where they kind of own the Ravens or in Lamar. And there was elements of that in this game. And the Ravens were still able to come back. And the Ravens ran for 217.
Yeah.
And the Steelers ran for 34. Wild disparity here.
It did feel like late in the game, the Steelers' defense was going to crap itself to the point where this game went away from them. Like, I agree with you. Early on, it's like the Steelers are they're feeling it. They're a different team. They're going to go out and win this game. It's going to be relatively comfortable. And then their defense just started to do what their defense has done all this season, which is not make the plays when they needed to. Baltimore's making the comeback. They're executing it. They then score, or so we thought. And then on review, we decided they did not score.
So Lamar Jackson hits Isaiah Likely for what would have been the go-ahead touchdown.
Yep. In the end zone, ball's in his hands, 2 feet are down, and then the Steelers player, whoever it was it Queen? Breaks it up, forced it out of his hands. You're like, yeah, but, that was after he'd scored. And then we went into the review, and it's like, no, apparently he didn't have it for long enough, based off some random arbitrary determination. That's a touchdown in today's NFL, and has been a touchdown for a while.
So he goes catch, 2 steps.
Yeah.
The problem was the 3rd step.
But you don't need a 3rd step in the end zone.
You do.
You don't.
You do.
You don't.
There
does not need to be a 3rd step.
There needs to be some sort of finished.
There simply doesn't. They've called that a touchdown in the last few years.
Well, because I saw somebody compare it to the Packers-Steelers game earlier this year, where I think it was Freiermuth in the end zone, but he took 4 steps before the ball got knocked out. This was 2 steps. You have to have the 3rd step or some sort of move. Now the argument for this is that Isaiah Likely was holding the ball away from the defender, and that's your football move. That's that's your control of the ball.
There is when you have 2 feet down in the end zone, you've scored. The play is over. There's let's wait an arbitrary amount of time for him to do something weird with the football, an act common to the game. Number one, a 3rd step is not a thing. There's nowhere in the rule book that you need a 3rd step.
Gene Steratore had the breakdown.
Yeah, Gene Steratore is often full of shit when it comes to his breakdowns. There's no 3rd step, right? The term in the rule book is something like an act common to the game or whatever it is, right?
All right.
So, but you don't need that in the end zone.
Gene Steratore, number 1, he's to have a completed pass, the receiver must, 1, secure the ball.
Yes, done.
Check. 2, have both feet or a body part.
Done.
Other than hands inbounds. Check. 3, perform a football move, which involves take a 3rd step, tuck the ball away, turn upfield, avoid/ward off an opponent.
Done.
Or to maintain control of the ball long enough to do so. And he's got a big
Also
X
done.
on there.
Yeah.
The 3rd element was not met, and the ball came loose prior to the receiver completing the 3rd element. That's Gene's read on the situation.
So Gene is wrong based off precedent that's been set previously when they changed this. This type of play was happening all the time where guys were scoring touchdowns, defenders were raking at the ball, and then they were like, no, we're going to call that incomplete. And then they were like, you know what, that's ridiculous. These guys are catching the ball. They're getting 2 feet down. They're in the end zone. The play's dead. It's over. They've scored. So we're going to start actually awarding those touchdowns. They started to award those touchdowns. And then this game, randomly, we've decided that we're going to go back 8 years, and we're going to call this an incomplete. Even though by Gene's own checkmark definition, he held the ball away from a guy, and he held it, I think, for long enough that you would call it a touchdown. So in 2 separate ways, the 3rd part checked.
I thought 2 feet down, almost a 3rd foot down, just to confirm it, but the holding the ball away might be the thing.
Right.
The last few minutes of the game involved several calls and or penalties that did not go the Ravens' way.
Yes.
Just a few of them.
This was a badly officiated game.
The other one, earlier in the game,
that
there was
play.
a 4-point penalty. The Steelers kick a field goal, and they got some sort of personal foul on Baltimore that Gene disagreed with. Became a 4-point penalty. But late in the game, so the other one was, it looked like Aaron Rodgers threw a batted pass interception. Ends up becoming a great play by Rodgers.
That was the Kate Otten play that we talked about before.
Yeah, so...
Except this one was even more sketchy.
So Rodgers throws the ball, it gets batted up, it comes back to him. He goes up, catches it.
Yeah.
And then someone from the Ravens is ripping the ball out of his hands, but Rodgers is coming down with it. He grabs possession first, he's coming down with it, knee hits the ground, and then right after his knee hits the ground, Ravens pull it away. So they initially called it an interception.
Yes.
If you remember the Kate Otten play, it was Sunday Night Football a couple weeks ago, and you were like, I was going to say pulling your hair out about this call. Wow. But I'm just saying, it was just rolling off my tongue, and then I hesitated, and then I went back to it.
Yeah.
But you were upset about this call because Kate Otten caught the ball, he had his knee down, holding the ball.
With the ball in his possession.
And then the Rams ripped it out of his hands.
Correct.
And they were like, well, he never had possession, so the Steelers the Rams take it for a pick six.
Kate Otten was down by contact.
Yes.
With the ball in his hand, in his possession, and they were like, no, it doesn't count.
So this was a similar play with Rodgers.
So this was, I thought initially it was basically the same play where Aaron Rodgers has possession of the football, his knee touches the ground, and therefore he's down by contact, and that's exactly what they called. When they showed a replay from the other angle, what makes this one even sketchier than the Kate Otten one, which in my opinion should have been 100% he's down by contact, even though there's a guy clawing at that football and about to rip it loose. I think there's clearly a moment in time where he has possession, his knee is down, he's therefore down by contact, the play is over. This one, though, what made it slightly different is that I think Rodgers is trying to just throw the ball onto the ground. Like, I think he's trying to create an incompletion, and it just so happens that, like, both of his hands are on the ball effectively with it in his possession.
You think Rodgers is trying to bat it?
Yeah, right at the end, not bat it, but right at the end you can see him basically trying to push the ball through a wall of bodies to the ground, as in, like, I'm going to throw this down to make it an incompletion, right? So that's where it gets trickier, because if that is what he's trying to do, well, the ball doesn't ever hit the ground, and therefore whoever intercepts it, I mean, if that's what he's trying to, it's not an incomplete pass, is what I'm saying. So he has to basically rely on there being an accidental moment in time where the ball is in his possession while he's trying to get rid of it from his possession, but his knee is down. But I do think that that's the correct interpretation of that rule.
So that was a massive play.
Yeah.
So you've got the likely play with 2:47 left. Where was the Rodgers play? Was that after?
That was before that, right?
That was before.
I think.
And then amidst all of this stuff going on, Ravens have this, so the likely play happens. They have to settle for a field goal. It's 27-22. In the fourth quarter, as much as I'm raving about Rodgers in this offense, when the Steelers needed to run the clock, they could not do it. The Ravens did give their offense multiple opportunities. The Steelers went 3 and out on all 3 fourth quarter drives.
Yikes.
They had 9 plays for 3 yards. So they continue to give the Ravens more plays. So the other play, and I'm not questioning the call or anything like that, this is the significant play here. When the Steelers punted the final time, the Ravens get a return, and it looked like they were going to have the ball. So the Steelers punted from their own 11, right? So Ravens down 5, about 2 minutes left. They punted with 2:08 left, right? They were going to get the 2-minute warning.
They had like a perfect 2-minute drive to try and win the game.
They did, and it's a 53-yard punt, returned 8 yards to the 44 of Baltimore, but there's an offensive hold. It puts them back at the 26. So they have no timeouts left in a minute 56. Still plenty of time, but a 20-yard penalty essentially.
Right.
Again, not saying it's right or wrong, just saying like that is what killed the Ravens. And I thought the Ravens ran an awful 2-minute drill.
Yeah.
Lamar Jackson drops back.
I mean, they burned a minute and didn't go anywhere.
2 checkdowns. It was an incomplete pass so they're holding on the first play to make it 1st and 20. So now they're at the 16. And now you got 1st and 20, and they check down twice for 4 yards and then for 8 yards, a scramble for 8. Am I reading this right? No. Yeah, check down for 6, check down for 4. And then Lamar scrambles for 8, to make it 4th and 2, and they convert the 4th and 2. But with 47 seconds left, they burnt over a minute to get to a 4th and 2.
They started this, right? They started the drive with 1 minute 56 left, so almost a full 2 minutes. 1st and 10 in their own 26, right? They had 47 seconds left at 4th and 2 in their own 34. So they'd only moved 8 yards and had burned more than a minute.
It was
and then had to use their third timeout before that point, or the third timeout.
They had one timeout left, and they used the third right before
to get to that 4th and 2. So by the time they had the first down again, they were 1st and 10 on their own 42. So they didn't move, 16 yards in a minute and a half. It's like now you've got 30 seconds basically to go the rest of this, and you need a touchdown.
And then it was just, okay, we could take some shots at the end zone. And they didn't even get to that. Lamar sacked by Alex Highsmith to seal it.
So they got to one shot, 3rd and 1 from the Pittsburgh 30. So maybe you've got 2 shots with 9 seconds left. Just put it in the end zone twice, and Lamar just takes a sack for game over.
Yeah, it was
bad.
Look, you could say he threw the game winner to Isaiah Likely. You can make that point, but it was an awful 2-minute drill from Baltimore where they still had an opportunity. And we know the significance of this game. Steelers get the win, they're 7-6. Ravens fall to 6-7. Steelers have full control of the division right now. They will have a rematch in a couple weeks, but this is the game that we were pointing to for weeks. And look, Baltimore's defense still has issues. They did a nice job in the run game at late to give the Ravens opportunities to win this game. But that busted coverage, I think it was Mike Green probably, that was supposed to peel off and cover Jalen Warren out of the backfield. He didn't do it. They still have issues, and the Steelers were down to 3rd string left tackle. Like, you just didn't feel the pass rush again from Baltimore. It is their worst defense in a while, and even though they had been better in recent weeks, now against rejuvenated Steelers offense, they couldn't make the stops when they needed to, or they gave up a lot of big plays. They made fourth quarter stops, but Pittsburgh, give them credit, man. They find a way when their back's against the wall.
Yeah. Someone in the chat, by the way, threw out this idea of you need to survive the ground on a catch. That's a thing for the ground forcing a completion or forcing an incompletion or not. It's not if somebody's ripping at the ball, that's different. Like, you don't have to survive the ground when it's a case of somebody ripping the ball away from your hands. Like, when you're down with the ball in your possession and you're being contacted, the play's over, you're down by contact. The survive the ground thing is if you're catching the ball and falling to the ground, you need to make sure you don't lose control of that ball because the ground forces it. It's a different rule, or a different part of the same rule, I guess.
All right, anything else on this one?
Nope. Thanks for watching all the way to the end of the video.
Check the Mic is live Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday, so be sure to hit subscribe so you don't miss a video.
You heard the man. Subscribe.